The man lay still in the middle of the dusty road, blood spreading slowly beneath his expensive suit. Cars swerved around him. Pedestrians glanced once, then kept moving. "Leave him, he's already gone." But one small boy didn't move. Barefoot, thin, invisible to the world, Ibrahim Akone stepped closer, heart pounding. He knelt down with trembling hands and pressed his ear against the man's chest. Silence. Then faint, fragile, a heartbeat. Ibrahim's breath caught. He's still alive. And in that single moment, a boy nobody cared about became the only reason a millionaire would breathe again. The city of Abidjan woke before the sun. By the time golden light stretched across the cracked sidewalks, the streets were already alive. Vendors, buses, noise, dust, the endless motion of survival. And somewhere between all of it moved a boy no one noticed. Ibrahim Akone had learned long ago how to exist without being seen. Barefoot, feet hardened by years on burning pavement, he moved quietly between cars at traffic stops, carrying a small wooden box strapped around his neck. Inside, worn brushes, a rag, and a tiny tin of polish, his entire livelihood. "Shine, sir, only 100 francs. Most drivers didn't even look at him. Some waved him away with irritation. Others rolled up their windows as if he carried disease instead of hope. A few tossed coins without meeting his eyes, like feeding a stray they didn't want to touch. Ibrahim never argued, never begged twice. He had learned that dignity, even in hunger, was something no one could take unless he gave it away. He hadn't eaten since yesterday afternoon. The smell of fresh bread drifted through the air at a nearby stall, warm and impossible to ignore. His hand tightened around his box. But instead of approaching, he turned away. Hunger was familiar. Rejection hurt more. By midday, the sun pressed down like a weight. His earnings for the day, just a handful of coins, barely enough for a cheap meal. Near a row of parked taxis, he spotted a man stepping out of a clean black car. Polished shoes, sharp suit, a watch that caught the sunlight. Ibrahim approached carefully. "Sir, shine your shoes?" The man paused, looked down, not at Ibrahim's face, but at his bare feet, then laughed softly. "You think I'd let someone like you touch my shoes?" The words weren't loud, but they cut deeper than shouting ever could. Ibrahim lowered his gaze. "I'm sorry, sir." He stepped back before the man could say more. That was another thing he had learned. Leave before humiliation grows. There had been a time, blurred now like a dream, when he had a home. A small one. A mother who sang while she cooked. A father who smelled of engine oil and laughter. But sickness took his mother quietly, and his father followed months later, leaving behind nothing but debts and a child no one wanted to claim. Relatives came not with comfort but with questions. Who will feed him? Who will pay for him? No one had answers. So one day, without ceremony, Ibrahim simply stopped belonging anywhere. He drifted to the streets like so many others, and the streets accepted him the only way they knew how, by hardening him. That afternoon, sitting near a broken wall and counting his coins, he heard something wrong. A strange broken sound that didn't belong to the rhythm of the city. He stood and moved toward it, weaving between adults who barely noticed him, and then he saw the man lying on the ground, too still, suit stained with dust and something darker, blood. Around him, people stood at a distance, whispering, pointing, but no one stepping forward. "He's gone, leave him, police will come." But no one moved, no one checked, because in that moment the man was no longer a person, he was a problem, and problems were easier to ignore. Ibrahim stood frozen, chest tight, not from fear but from something deeper, a memory, his father lying just like that, neighbors standing at a distance waiting, no one helping until it was too late. His fingers curled slowly into fists. Not again. He stepped forward. "Hey boy, don't touch him!" someone shouted. But Ibrahim didn't stop. He pushed through and knelt beside the man. Up close it was worse. Face pale, lips slightly parted, body unnaturally still. Doubt crept in. What if they were right? He swallowed hard, leaned closer, and placed his ear against the man's chest. The world around him faded. No voices, no traffic, no fear. Just silence, heavy, endless. Then a sound so faint it could have been imagined, but it wasn't, a heartbeat. Weak, fragile, but real. "He's alive!" Ibrahim shouted, turning toward the crowd. But no one rushed forward, no one helped. "Then call someone," a man said lazily. Another replied, "Let the hospital deal with it." But who will take him there? Silence. Ibrahim looked from face to face, waiting, hoping, begging without words, but the answer was already clear. No one would help because helping cost something: time, money, risk, and this stranger was not worth it to them. Ibrahim turned back slowly. He was just a boy, hungry, alone, with barely enough to survive. For a brief second, the weight of reality pressed down. You can walk away. No one will blame you. No one will even remember. But that faint heartbeat echoed in his ears again. Still there, still fighting, still holding on. Ibrahim clenched his jaw. "No," he whispered. "Not this time." Carefully, awkwardly, he slipped his small arms under the man's shoulders and began to pull. The body was heavy, far too heavy for a thin street boy. His muscles strained instantly, but he didn't stop. Inch by inch, he dragged the man away from the center of the road, away from passing cars, toward the edge of the street. People watched. Some shook their heads, some laughed quietly. No one stepped forward, and still Ibrahim kept pulling. Because in a world that had once abandoned him, he had made a quiet decision. He would not abandon someone else. He spotted an old wooden cart leaning against a rusted pole across the road. One wheel bent, wood cracked but usable. He ran for it, dodging cars and ignoring shouted insults, dragged it back, and with everything he had managed to roll the man onto it. Then he grabbed the handle and started pushing through the crowded streets, weaving between people who barely acknowledged his existence. "Move! Watch it! Stupid boy!" The words blurred into noise. All that mattered was moving forward. The nearest proper hospital was too far, and they would ask for money he didn't have. So he aimed for the only place he could think of, a small clinic near the edge of the market. Not clean, not modern, but real. The journey felt endless. Arms aching, legs burning, sweat stinging his eyes. More than once the cart nearly tipped. More than once he nearly gave up. But each time that faint heartbeat echoed in his memory. Still there, still fighting. And so he kept going. When he finally pushed through the clinic doors and shouted for help, a nurse looked up startled, then a doctor rushed in. Dr. Acha Kulabali, sharp and focused, assessed the situation in seconds. "He's critical. We need to move him now." Relief flooded Ibrahim's chest. Then the question hit like a wall. "Do you have money?" Ibrahim slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out the small handful of coins, everything he had earned that day, everything he had. "This is all I have." The doctor looked at the coins, then at the boy, then at the man. The room went silent. Not cruel, just heavy. Ibrahim's voice broke. "Please don't let him die." Dr. Aicha exhaled slowly, then turned to the nurse. "Get the stretcher." And just like that, they were helping. Really helping. Through the night, Ibrahim didn't leave. Even as the clinic emptied, even as exhaustion pressed down on him, he stayed. A nurse brought him a small piece of bread. He ate it slowly, his eyes never leaving the man. Around midnight, the monitor spiked. The man's heart rate dropped dangerously. Dr. Aicha moved fast, calm under pressure, administering an injection with steady hands. "Come on," she murmured. The machine beeped erratically, paused, beeped again. Ibrahim stood frozen, fists clenched, whispering, "Don't die! Please don't die!" Then slowly the rhythm steadied. The man's chest rose deeper. He was still there. Ibrahim's legs gave out and he dropped to his knees from sheer relief. By morning the man's eyes finally opened. Clouded at first, confused, slowly focusing. Then they found Ibrahim standing beside him, watching, waiting. "You're awake," Ibrahim whispered. The man's lips moved. "Why?" he managed, barely audible. "Why help? Why stay? Why care?" Ibrahim thought for a moment, then shrugged. "Because you were alive." The man stared at him, something shifting in his expression, something deeper than gratitude, recognition of a kind of goodness he had forgotten existed. His name was Musa Diabete, and as fragments of memory returned, so did the truth. He hadn't collapsed from illness, he had been poisoned. His most trusted partner, Sadou Traoré, the man he had treated like a brother for years, had poisoned him at dinner and had him dumped on the street like garbage. While Musa lay in that small clinic, Sadhu had already moved into his office chair, told investors the chief was gone, and begun dismantling everything Musa had spent decades building. But Musa was not dead, and when his loyalist Kwame arrived at the clinic after a quiet phone call, everything shifted. They moved Musa to a proper hospital under full security. Ibrahim went with them. At the entrance, men sent by Sadhu tried to stop them. And it was Ibrahim, a barefoot street boy with nothing, who stepped forward and stood between them and the stretcher. "Leave him alone." His legs trembled, his heart raced, but he didn't move. That moment of courage bought just enough time. They got Musa inside safely. Musa recovered, and when he was strong enough, he walked back into his own headquarters while Sadhu stood at a press conference announcing his takeover. The doors opened, heads turned, silence spread. Musa stood there, alive, steady, and holding medical proof of exactly what had been done to him. "There's something you all need to know," he said. Sadhu was arrested that evening. The company was restored. The truth finally stepped into the light. Weeks later, Ibrahim Akone was no longer sleeping on the streets. He went to school, ate real meals, laughed like a child is supposed to laugh. Sometimes he still woke up early and looked out at the streets below, but now he saw them differently. Not as a place he belonged, but as a place he had survived. Musa kept his promise not just with money, but with presence, with respect, with time. Because what Ibrahim had given him could not be bought, it could only be honored. A man who had lost everything gained something greater. A boy who had nothing found everything, all because one person chose not to walk away. In a world that moves too fast to notice pain, too busy to stop, too afraid to care, this story reminds us of something simple but powerful. Kindness is not measured by what you have, it is measured by what you choose to do. Ibrahim had nothing, and yet he gave the one thing the world could not replace. He stayed. So now I ask you, if you were there, would you stop? Would you stay? Would you choose to care? Tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time is it right now. If this story moved you, like, share, and subscribe. Because stories like this remind us who we still have the power to be. If this story touched your heart, then you are exactly who this channel was made for. African Heritage Tales is where stories like Ibrahim's live, stories of courage, survival, kindness, and truth rooted in the heart of Africa. Every story we share carries a lesson the world needs to hear. So if you are not subscribed yet, hit that button right now and turn on notifications so you never miss a story that could change the way you see the world. And before you go, drop a comment below. Where are you watching from and which part of Ibrahim's story hit you the hardest? We read every single one. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that one small act of kindness can change everything. We will see you in the next story, only on African Heritage Tales.